Hi everyone, this is Jill from the North Woods. Well, this is week 55. And as we talked about before, I had the conference that I went to before. I asked my doctor if I could go up in dose because I felt like this dose is no longer working. But I did lose 1.8 pounds this week, which is a solid week. So that was very good. It makes me curious because I don't feel the side effects anymore. I don't see my heart rate jump like it used to when I would take, and not just when I would take the shot, like I was scared of the injection, but more like my heart rate for the first 4 days would go up 4 or 5 points. My heart rate variability would go down, and I'm not seeing as much as I used to see that. So I think the drug is wearing off, but I'm still losing weight, and that's good. My blood sugar is still good. So is that just Jill now? I know that it has a half-life of 5 days, which means after 5 days, which is why we start seeing some of the effects come back, is the half-life means half the drug is out of your system. But if it's not working very well anymore, part of this makes me wonder if this is just me. The hilarious thing is I have a bunch of things in my freezer that I just can't bring myself to eat, like fish. I didn't like fish before, but now I just can't stomach fish at all. And suddenly I've been able to eat the things that I couldn't stomach before. So I'm starting to just clean out my freezer a bit by eating all those things. I've had some cravings for sure, but they've been resistible. So there you go. I see my doctor at the end of August, which means that I will get through this box and then I will start the next box and then see my doctor. So then 2 more boxes really of 4 shots to go. So, but still solid weight loss. That means I have 45 pounds left, 45 pounds left, which is really exciting to me. I know that part of me is excited. I'm just getting excited. I'm starting to see the end of the tunnel. My friend took a picture of me carrying a tray at a restaurant we go to when we go hiking on weekends. And so all along the way, she's been taking pictures of me every time we go there. And I'm looking and I'm like, it's really not that bad, anymore. Like I look people-ish, like I look like just what people look like. And that's kind of exciting for me. So I'm just getting antsy for it, but I still know I have to get those 45 pounds down. Uh, I'm still way too much. I have had people tell me, Jill, it's enough. It's enough. You're fine. But I still am at BMI of 33.7. It's too much. Anything above 31 is obese. So, I mean, technically it's not much better. So we're doing a little bit of a series. I'm hoping that next week I will start my presentation that I did at this conference. There were a number of people who wanted to see this presentation, and I will re-record it in 2 steps for this channel so you can see it too. And like I said, some people at the conference wanted their friends and spouses to see that presentation, but it's essentially how to use the Apple ecosystem to help you be more fit. We're going to continue our conversation that we had last week about how do we get our bodies to be resensitized to our own personal GLP-1. Interesting thing is I just saw a scientific article yesterday that was talking about how, I forgot where this was, I think it was Japan, but there's a study out there where they gave, I don't know what they gave people. I think it was maybe like possibly like a DNA treatment, which means it's changing your genes. But what it does is it kicks GLP-1 to naturally produce out of the liver in troves. And so it's a way, they feel, of taking a GLP-1 without taking a GLP-1 and your liver's kicking it out. So that means you're not getting side effects out of it because it's slowly flowing through your body all the time. So that's kind of exciting. But it leads me to believe that if there's a genetic trigger in there, that means some of us are low in it. And maybe that's why we get overweight and we are overweight our whole lives. Maybe something happens to us because the genes do trigger. Essentially, you might have a gene, but it might not express itself until something happens. And so it's possible that something causes the GLP-1 production gene to turn off or to slow down. And I don't know. I don't know the science of it, but I'm like, this is a really big breakthrough. So I'm kind of excited about it. But at some point, if we're gonna go off this drug ever, we're going to become, we're gonna go on our own GLP-1, and suddenly we're not going to be used to this level because 'cause we're used to being blasted with a high level of it. Last week, I talked about what you can do with your actions to help you get reattuned to your GLP-1s. Today, we're gonna talk more about food because there's actually some foods which will help you, and the short and long of it is that, fiber, fermented foods, resistant starches, fasting, all those kinds of things can help you get readjusted, but we're gonna talk about each of these one by one so we know a little bit more about them. None of these are crackpot science. They are known things that we've known for a long time. And so we'll talk a little bit about it. So, like I said, we want to get readjusted. Our brain produces GLP-1, our gut produces it, and it helps then us feel full. It helps digestion slow, all the things that we know, but it regulates food and blood sugar. We want to go back to where our bodies just do that and stop what they call down regulating or receptor desensitization and start listening to our own bodies again. That would be nice. And so the first big thing, fiber. Fiber is the gut's favorite fuel. It is something that keeps us moving, So again, we're talking about the poop, but it keeps us moving. It's good for our bacteria in our gut. And it's good for almost everything there, and it does not process into glucose like other carbs do. So foods that are very high in fiber take away that fiber carb, and it's less. It's less carbs than what we're used to eating. And obviously, there's good ways of getting natural fiber, through oats, legumes, a lot of flax seeds and chias, whole grains, pears, apples, all have high bits of fiber in them. But we'll do a couple weeks, a whole thing on the gut biome. The gut biome helps produce short chain fatty acid, and that helps stimulate GLP-1s. So when we're saying eat your vegetables, it's a really good idea. I hate vegetables, but I'm going to do it. And spinach I kind of like, so I've been sticking with the spinach. It's a good way of getting your body sensitized. And the next part of it is keeping low on carbs. Carbs normally, like particularly refined carbs, just dump into sugar into our blood system. It is like eating spoonfuls of sugar, basically. Refined carbs are easy to digest. They just turn right into glucose, and it's been very bad for us. But the question is what can we do? Can we still eat carbs? The first answer is I think we're going to have less carbs. I believe that, a lot of times when you talk about some of these diets, you go on some of these classic diets that we've had in the past. Essentially, all of them, if you look at them for the most part, are cut back on carbs. And if you sat there and told people, well, this is the yellow food diet, you can only eat foods that are yellow, you'd probably succeed at it because you'd be eating yellow apples and you'd be eating yellow corn, but for the most part, you would kick out bread and everything else. So part of it is carbs are really just not great for you, particularly if you have had glucose troubles in the past. Keep glucose down. Even if we're no longer diabetic, I am thinking that maybe at the end of this, I will no longer be diabetic, but it's still not great for us. And so then the question is first of all, having low carbs. Carbs kick into your body and the body loves it. Oh, it's a preferred energy source. I mean, think about us, 200 years ago, where we're like, oh, the famine is over. Look, I baked bread. And, we'd be, hurrahing because of the great sugar bomb that just hit our system. So the question is if we do want to eat carbs, again, first of all, filled with fiber. You want to eat carbs filled with fiber. And I think in the end, that's going to be my new rule, is that I can eat carbs, but they have to be a certain ratio of fiber. I used to have a 3-gram rule. I might kick that up to 5-gram rule. But whole carbs are going to be good for us because of fiber. It has bran, germ, and the endosperm. All the parts of the basically fiber or the bread working for you. There's dietary fiber, which slows digestion, it's full of minerals like magnesium, iron, B12 complex. And a lot of times these will be plant compounds. Again, another good antioxidant. Our gut likes that kind of piece in there. But then there's like the whole carbs that we think of. Whole oats, steel cut or rolled. Rolled are processed, but they still have the same properties as steel cut. So whichever you like. Quinoa. Brown rice is better than white rice. Lentils, beans, chickpeas. A lot of chickpea sauces out there so that you could make something like that. A lot of bean dips, there's a lot of things to eat. Sweet potatoes, whole grain bread. That's going to be either whole wheat, whole grain, or sprouted grain. Sprouted grain is even better for you. Vegetables, broccoli, carrot, squash, leafy greens, and then fruits with skins. Again, apples and pears. Those are better carbs because they digest more slowly. They don't spike our blood sugar. And we're going to want to keep our blood sugar in tow, even if we're not diabetic, just so that we can keep the GLP-1 kicking along. So we can get all the signals not getting drowned out by the enormous amounts of sugar floating around in our system. Whole carbs are what's going to support you for GLP-1. It is going to also just, in general, keep you hormonally happy. And it's keeping like I said, the gut bacteria happy too, which is great. It's reducing inflammation. Sugar is highly inflammatory in our bodies. It just really is all just one of the worst things. I have to say that, you always hear these things like eggs are good for you, eggs are bad for you, eggs are good for you. I don't think we're ever going to come a time where we're going to say, oh, sugar, we were wrong about that. That was totally good for you. That will never happen. And a lot of the studies that we're talking about high fat meals, and I don't know that high fat is particularly great for you, but what they were funded was by the sugar industry, who then in the 90s got to put on candy fat-free. My candy is fat-free. My Jolly Rancher is fat-free. We should eat Jolly Ranchers. I like Jolly Ranchers, by the way. Nothing against them, but you know what I mean? We advertised something that wasn't true, that they were great for you because they were fat-free. Fats actually don't process into glucose. So, I mean, there's a lot to be learned in that. And again, the other nice thing about having carbs that are whole grain is they make your body feel full. I find that when I eat an incredibly low carb diet, I start to not feel good. I feel weak. I have trouble. How people talk about GLP-1s, they can't get out of bed and they can't get themselves motivated. I feel that way when I have an incredibly low carb diet. Right now, I am trying to keep it under 100, which I'm doing easily. I think I'm at like 75 right now. But in general, before I was on this GLP-1 thing, I was keeping my carbs under 100 grams per day and keeping my sugar under 25, I think it was, grams a day. The interesting thing is that the processed carbs, they remove the bran, they remove the germ, and then all you do is you have the starch in the center. They're low in fiber, low in nutrients, they're quick to digest, they spike your blood sugar. And so those include white bread, hamburger buns, white rice, pasta made from white flour, pastries, cookies, cakes, crackers, chips, all those things that sugars, sugary drinks, all those things are just refined carbohydrates. And so they gives you a quick energy. I mean, you ever seen kids when you give them a big pile of sugar and they're just like, woo, but then eventually you crash and then your body starts craving like, oh no, I'm crashing. I'm tired. I can't go anymore. And then it starts like begging for carbs some more. And then so you just keep going up and down in this carb roller coaster. It is harmful, these refined carbs, to the gut bacteria. They starve out the helpful bacteria and they promote the bad bacteria. That's why our teeth go bad too when we have too much candy, is that it, like I said, it's inflammatory, but it also promotes bad bacteria. So then it throws us off of the game. I will tell you about some gut bacteria stuff when we get into that episode. But I was able to rebuild my gut bacteria by cutting off sugar and after some antibiotics. So really, it makes a difference in helping us promote the GLP-1. And As we eat, the better carbs, we'll have less intense craving for carbs. We'll not have that roller coaster. I saw this chart that was really great. It was showing someone eating instant oatmeal for breakfast, and then they would spike up in sugar, and then they would drop down, and their glucose was all over the place. I mean, these are normal people. These not diabetics. And then they showed someone eating steel cut oats, and their glucose was solid throughout the day. Oh, so, like I said, I just can't say it enough that it's just not great for us to be eating that. And some easy ways that you can swap, there's the idea of white rice, have brown rice or quinoa, pick the steel cut oats instead of the instant oatmeal that is processed. And think about processing as like the factory is pre chewing it for you. It is so easy to digest because they're just basically, it's almost like an IV of sugar to us. And, pick whole grain breads instead of white breads. There have been like I said, that keto bread I get, but the whole grain breads are getting better. They used to be, not tasteful, but they're, like, good to eat, but they're good. Chickpeas, brown beans, black beans, soups, salads. Like I said, you can make dips out of them. Roasted sweet potatoes instead of white potatoes. My friend had switched over to those, and she really likes that. And then having a vegetable with every meal. And guess what? Frozen and canned are fine. You can have frozen and canned vegetables. Just be careful if like they put salt in it or something like that. So that's one piece of it, is getting those whole carbs. Then the next one you may not have heard from. I've been asking a lot of people if you've heard of this, and I have heard of this before. And it was funny because I sort of thought it was my special trick. But there's something called resistant starch. And resistant starch are ones that don't digest the same way that regular starches, regular carbs do. They resist digestion in the small intestine, which means the colon is less impacted. It means you don't have the great sugar spike. It means that your gut bacteria is not impacted the way it is. And there's something called bullyrate, which is a short chain fatty acid, and that helps stimulate GLP-1 release. So these resistant carbs can actually help you produce your own natural GLP-1. Now, the idea of these resistant starches is that there are some starches that are naturally resistant starches. White potatoes, raw. As soon as you cook them, they lose their natural resistance. So then they become just like every other starch. But here's the secret. Then there's the next type, which is you can take certain starches, white potato, rice, pasta, and cook them and let them cool 4 to 12 hours. When you do, they turn into a semi-resistant starch. So it's actually better to eat pasta leftovers, rice leftovers, white potato leftovers, or cold potatoes. Think about potato salad. Think about rice and pasta in a pasta salad. Cold. When you eat it cold or you eat it as cold leftovers, it's actually better for you. And it doesn't spike your sugar the way normal foods do. It's kind of interesting. If you reheat it, so if I have pasta, I cook it, I let it cool, I put it in the refrigerator overnight, I have my leftover pasta. Even if I reheat it, it doesn't lose all of its resistant characteristics. So that's something you may not have heard, but it's actually better for us to eat leftovers and chill some of these carbs than eating them hot. And then there's some certain things like bananas and plantains that are green and unripe or underripe. They are also resistant starches. So those are things that you can do. It doesn't spike the blood sugar, and you can keep them that way. One of the things that I've done in the past is I cook potatoes or rice, and then I cool them in the fridge, and then I use them throughout the week. Like I said, I either eat them cold, because I don't actually mind cold food for whatever reason, like cold pizza and cold pasta. But I can also make salads out of them. And I've been working on trying recipes to do that better. So you can have carbs this way more strategically, better for the gut biome, and really not spiking that sugar up there. The next one comes in as fermented foods. They are also very good for your gut health, and they are key players kind of in GLP-1 sensitivity. Fermented food enters probiotics into our guts. It helps the digestive system. It promotes the kinds of microbes that enhance GLP-1 signaling, and it helps reduce inflammation. So it's not that it produces GLP-1, but it helps us hear our GLP-1s again. And some of these have to do with yogurts with live cultures, kefir, which is a drinkable type of yogurt. When I spent 2 summers in Israel, we got something there called mummy tummy, which is like Montezuma's Revenge. It's like what you get when you drink the water and in a place and then you get kinda sick to your stomach. They just pumped us full of kefir all the whole time, and that's ended up, making us better again. Sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, miso. So those are all things that are fermented that can help you, generate your gut biome and help you become more GLP sensitive. You pair those with some fiber, a little bit of garlic, onions, those kind of things. You make like a dish out of it, and boy, that's some good, happy bacteria thriving in your stomach there. So you're really trying to go for things that are going to help your stomach do that. I have never been much of a fermented food person, but around here, North Woods, sauerkraut. That's the big food here. We also have like a fermented fish, which I will not touch with a million years. I had it before, but I won't do that. So I'm more of a yogurt gal, and that's kind of how I go about it. But it's a good way of doing it. And really, the best next thing that you can do when it comes to food is intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting, again, starves the body of sugar. It uses the sugar. The one thing that you don't want to do is get the insulin kicked in saying, oh, a lot of sugar in Jill's body, I'm going to store a ton of it. Instead, when you intermittent fast, it helps keep the hormones in balance. It keeps the sugar out of the system. What I was told when I had my big cancer scare is essentially I had so much sugar floating around in my body and so much insulin floating around in my body that the hormones signals weren't getting to their destination. Is too much noise. It's like being in a rock concert inside your body and the regular hormones can't get there. So anything that could potentially help you is not. And so as you do that, your ghrelin gets better, your hunger signals, your full signals all start doing a little bit better. Leptin is the other one. I've been experimenting with 16-8, which means that I basically eat during an 8-hour window during the day, which usually is somewhere between 9 a.m. I'm not much of a morning food person. And then I try to stop eating somewhere 5 or 6 o'clock. I try. And then I fast that whole time. And so I'm not starving myself. I'm not hungry. I'm just basically telling my body, eat the sugar that's already in your system. Eat the fat that's already in your system. And really what you're doing is giving up the nighttime snacks. And I know people love, sitting in front of the TV, eating popcorn, eating snacks. But that's the thing that might be sinking you. If you're doing everything else right and you can't seem to lose weight or you can't seem to get your sugar down, it may be the timing of your eating because your body just needs time where it's just not getting a full impact of sugar. Think about, like our ancestors, right? We're eating and then, we didn't have much in the way of light. And so now we're indoors and we eat our dinner and that's the last meal of the day. And we don't eat the whole night. Our bodies are just built to have a gap so that it can take up everything that's already in our system. It helps with insulin sensitivity. It helps with gut, getting better with the inflammation. And again, some people studies feel that their intermittent fasting can help GLP-1 production. So it's worth trying and exploring. I have not had much success with fasting. I hear that works as well. But my sugar is so low right now that I get, like I said, 36 hours in and I can't do it anymore. Not that I'm not trying, I'm sort of just letting one day a week and see if I can do it like that. But intermittent fasting at least gives enough of a gap every day where it's just burning off everything that's in there. And so I think in the end, you can kind of think of food as an amplifying effect of sometimes it can amplify bad things, bad gut, high insulin, high sugar, the production of stress hormones in our system, and bad sleep because we're eating the wrong things at the wrong time and we're not really fueling ourselves. I didn't mention this, but part of it I think has a lot to do with just refined foods in general. There was a story a long time ago when it was on the news. I was somewhere in the 90s where they were talking about these food companies. They found these papers of these food companies, and they were trying to figure out um, in like particularly France, and then they named a few countries. France had a huge aversion to overweight people, and it was causing them to not snack. Like they may eat 3 potato chips and then they stop. And they said, "Well, how can we break through to get them to snack?" And I thought, "Gosh, that's really terrible." I understand you wanna sell potato chips, but you wanna destroy a whole society's health because you think they should snack more? And that was eye-opening for me, is that they wanted people to get over this idea that obesity was harmful because they wanted people in France to eat more processed foods. They create the processed food to have the perfect taste, the perfect texture, the perfect, way it goes down our gullet, and how we feel afterwards and how much more do we wanna have it before. There was something I was showing, I was reading about that some salt has sugar in it because they wanted the sugar to become more addictive, and I'm like, "What?" So, I don't know, like I said, that was just an article I read. But the food industry, and it's not knocking the food industry, they keep us fed too, their goal is to sell more food, and so anything they can do to get you to eat more food by making it more savory, by making it easier, by making it, just easy to digest. While it's good eating, I love processed foods like the next person. I've been giving up on it entirely. It is just not helping us succeed in our health things. I wish it was. I wish that Doritos was the answer to health and everything else in life, but it just isn't. And it's not like you can't have some things if you can control yourself and have it back like when I was a kid. We had a bag of Doritos on the Super Bowl weekend, and then we wouldn't see another bag of Doritos the whole rest of the year. I would get cans of pop on the Super Bowl Sunday or maybe New Year's Day, but it was maybe twice a year. And maybe that's the idea, is just to get back into that balance so that we can actually eat foods. And so right now, I'm on a kick right now to just eat foods where I can read the label and I know exactly what everything is. It doesn't read like chemistry label. And even if you do, like I said, you can look at oats and say, "Oh, well, this thing has oats. It must be good for me." But what kind of oats? Anything that just processes the heck out of a food, even if it's the right food like oats, still isn't very good for you. So I hate to say that. I'm not a health food nut, but the whole goal in this is to succeed at this, to be healthy. And I know people who have been healthy in their lives, and I have known people who have not been healthy in their lives, and eventually it catches up with all of us. You might be in your 20s. I was in my 20s once, and I thought, "Look at me. I might be this, 110 pounds overweight, but I'm healthy as all get out. There's not a thing wrong with me." And eventually it catches up with you. And I think the idea is that as much as I would love to eat, foods that were pre-prepared for me, they're not making me succeed in life, and they're not going to keep me healthy in the long run. Someone, I saw this as a meme today that says, "The longer the shelf life, the shorter the health life." And there you go. So I hope that helps, thinking about food and how we can do it. I'm not saying we can't certainly have certain kinds of food, but maybe we turn them more into a treat than we have, as a daily bag of Doritos, that kind of thing. Maybe we just have every New Year's Eve, I have Doritos, and that's it. I mean, that's, it for me too. Like I always, I cut out like cookies and all those things as soon as I knew I was heading towards diabetes. And the only time I said I could have a couple of cookies was Christmas, because I love Christmas cookies. So I allowed myself a couple of them and then I was done with it because you don't get unhealthy by what you do between Christmas and New Year's. You get unhealthy by what you do from New Year's to Christmas. And so if we can start building these habits and eating the kinds of foods that are going to make us succeed, I think we'll be better for it. All right, everyone, thanks so much. Appreciate you watching. I hope everything is going well for you out there. I'm trying brand new software, and we'll see how it goes. I'm trying to improve the sound and the video quality, and so let me know. Put a chat channel in here and say, what you think. Email me at jill@startwithsmallsteps.com. Please don't use any other email. I am having a certificate problem, and if you found some old email from me, does not work. Jill@startwithsmallsteps.com. Thanks so much. Have a great day.